Hello, I'm Dr. Michelle Burden, along with Dr. Lisa Burkhardt Worley, and welcome to Pop Talk, the show where you never know what topics might pop up. Many things try to grab our attention these days. We are constantly on our cell phones, answering text messages. We hop on and off social media, and everything in our homes has a ding or an alarm. However, are there some good distractions? In today's Pop Talk interview, we will talk with an author and speaker who will provide some reasons why distractions can be beneficial. Dr. Lisa has her introduction.
Thank you, Michelle. Our guest today is a gifted speaker, writer, and actress. Her name is Peg Arnold. Peg's a frequent guest on podcasts like Linda Goldfarb's Staying Real About Faith and Family, Mary and Martha, A Woman's Heart, and Fierce Calling. She speaks at writers' conferences like the Florida Christian Writers Conference, the Roaring Lambs Writers Conference, and the Well for Ministry Creatives Conference. She's written 2 books, Making Your Message Memorable, Creative Ideas for Captivating Presentations, and her other book is Devotions for the Distracted Heart, 40 Devotions to Find God's Purpose Amid the Distractions of Life. So welcome, Peg. It's so great to have you as a guest on Pop Talk. I've done some research on the human attention span, Peg. It has dropped from 12 seconds to 8 seconds in the last 2 decades. Goldfish, get this, goldfish have an attention span of 9 seconds. So humans do not even have the same attention span as a goldfish. Why are we all so distracted?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question, Lisa. There are so many reasons for this. You mentioned, Dr. Michelle mentioned in the last 20 years how much our digital devices get in the way with these distractions. And they have consumed more and more of our time. Information comes in shorter and shorter bursts all the time with social media, with online scrolling, your TikTok, your videos, all of those. Even if you look at the way TV has changed, obviously, you can stream things, but if you still watch TV on a network, where there are commercials used to be 30 seconds long. And now some of them are 5 seconds long, and they string together 5 minutes of those in between shows. We're actually training our brain to consume information at a faster and a shorter interval, filling our schedules, and we emphasize in our society productivity and multitasking. So we are expected to give quick solutions, quick rewards. So I'm thinking that all of this is training our brains to get more and more distracted because we don't want to miss anything. Think of the last time you held a conversation with somebody and you asked, how are they? Are you waiting for their answer? Or are you waiting to just respond to it? Many times we ask a question and we don't wait. We want to react to their answer and we're calculating our response in our head rather than taking in the information that they're given. Or we ask how they are and they answer busy as if it is a badge of honor. All of these are contributing to what is making our minds more distracted and just that short attention span that we all have.
It's so interesting that you said that, Peg. I know I listen to when we have conversations with my husband and I as well, and he's always thinking about the next thing he wants to say when I'm in the process of saying something. I'm like, are you listening? So he's like, I'm listening. But it's interesting. A study by Harvard University determined that our minds are designed to wander. So when working on a task, the average person wanders every 14 minutes. So you say that God uses distractions in 4 ways to get our attention. So could you please share some of those and provide a brief explanation for each of them?
Oh, certainly. I love this. And this is what God was showing me because I'm a person that lives my life with very little margin. When we live our life with very little margin, distractions can absolutely destroy our life. And I'm going to ask a question to you and your listeners. You know, when you go somewhere, how many times does your stress raise at a red light because you're running a little bit late? So that shows that's a sign to us that we are living life without margin and we are adding stress and anxiety to our life, making every interruption, every inconvenience just something that upsets us and raises our cortisol, and we start to worry. So if we can take a deep breath and slow down, I think there are four things that I say that can teach us through distractions, interruptions, and inconveniences. And one is a detour. Sometimes a distraction is a detour. And you're going to notice when I talk about distractions, I'm talking about D words. In fact, most of my devotions are D words, distraction of detours, distractions of delays. Um, but in a detour, I remember my husband and I were late for a social event, and we hit a detour in a road. And it was evening, and again, that feeling of anxiety, stress, because now we're going to be later. We have to detour. And it took us out on a country road. And it was one of those fall evenings where the harvest moon was right at the horizon. And it was just as huge as could be and beautiful and glowing. And for some reason, God kind of had us take that breath and say, it's okay that we're late. Look at the moon. We would have not had seen this if we had not hit this detour. We saw the detour at first as an inconvenience, another, thing that was going to delay us to getting there on time. But God wanted us to take a breath and say, being there on time isn't as important as are you recognizing the blessings I am giving you in your world? And so sometimes I think God takes us on a detour with a distraction, and we will miss his blessing if we just focus on the stress and the end point that we are focused on. If we can take that detour and take in that breath. Another thing is a delay. I think God uses distractions to delay us. And sometimes those delays are a form of protection. How many times have you had a delay like you forgot something? You got in your car and you've got to turn off the curling iron or the iron, if
All the
anybody uses
time.
an iron anymore. Right. And you run back in and it kind of puts you a little behind. But as you are going to your appointment or wherever you're headed, you see an accident in front of you. And you think, had I been on time, I could have been that car. It happened to me just a couple weeks ago. I had to run back into my house. I was on my way to Bible study, had to turn off the coffee pot, all of those things. And I got in my car. And as I'm driving down the road, now this is the middle of the city, so I don't expect this to happen, but I watched a deer run into the truck right in front of me in the middle of the city. I live in Colorado, so deer are part of, wildlife is a part of our life. But that delay I thought was an inconvenience, and it was a protection by God. And so it's being able to look at these distractions. Another one, I love this one. Sometimes God has a divine appointment. He puts an interruption or a distraction in our life because there's a divine appointment ahead of us. I was on my way to the airport and running late only because I wanted to stand and get my coffee. So as I returned the rental car, I ran into the airport and realized I didn't have my cell phone. I had to run back out. Luckily, it was one of those small airports that I didn't have to take a bus from the rental lot. And my car was in a parking lot that I could run to, told them what happened. I got my cell phone out of the car, ran back into the airport. It was in Flint, Michigan. If you've ever been there, it's a tiny airport. But as I stood in line for coffee, this woman stood behind me and started a conversation with me. I have to tell you, it was a divine appointment. Had I gotten in line when I should have, we never would have met. This was over 10 years ago. This woman was a Christian speaker. We still are in contact today because of that divine appointment, which never would have happened had I not had that distraction of leaving my cell phone in the car. And so sometimes we can take these distractions, and if we open up our mind to see what happens after the distraction, we can see where God was using it to teach us a lesson, to detour us, delay us, give us a divine appointment. And sometimes I do have to say, yes, it is to discipline us. It is to teach us a lesson. There was a time that, so I call this the teaching us, disciplining us, like the Samaritan. The Levi passed because he had places to go and people to see. And the Pharisee, he had places to go and people to see when the man was against the road. But the Samaritan, he took time to care for that. How many times have we passed someone in trouble and that little small voice says, I want you to reach out and help that person? Sometimes we listen to it, and then God shows us that, oh, thank you for being, thank you for speaking to that need. But sometimes we disregard it, and God puts that guilt. There was a time that I disregarded helping somebody at the side of the road. And it turned out, and I thought I was being distracted because I had a fussy toddler and a baby in my car, and I needed to get my kindergartner to school. So I thought I was doing what I needed to do. I would go back and try and help. And it was somebody I knew, and they weren't there when I went back to help. And so God was disciplining my heart to say, sometimes what's on your schedule isn't the most important, Peg. Sometimes helping someone else and being late for whatever. Do you think that what you have on your schedule is more important than showing my love and my help and my kindness to others? And so sometimes he uses those distractions to discipline us, to offer a time. And when you think about Jesus, when somebody approached him, when the woman who had the issue of blood approached him on the way to Jairus's house to heal his daughter, he didn't look around and said, sorry, I got places to go and people to see and things to do. He always took time. So I think sometimes our distractions are opportunities to serve. And when we don't, he's going to discipline us and show us that we needed to use our time differently.
Great wisdom, Peg. I love that. Just really honor those distractions and realize that God may be using that distraction for some greater purpose than, our schedule. I
Yeah.
do run late a lot. Sometimes it's not because God has a plan for that, but Michelle knows she's always like early. And so I admire that about her. But I do think you're right. Distractions can have a purpose and be a part of God's plan. Now, I think sometimes the Lord can speak to us in the distractions, right?
Yeah,
Maybe He is
absolutely.
wanting to get our attention. He wants to give us a direct message. I've told this story before. In fact, Michelle's heard it probably a couple of times. But I recall having this conversation with a woman at a media retreat, and she excelled in the sciences, and she majored in biology and chemistry in college. And I said to her, I'm so impressed with you. I was terrible at science and biology in high school and college. And that is so surprising since my dad was a medical doctor. Well, then I heard it was like this came from another place. And it was, you may not be a doctor like your father, but I gifted you to heal. Our
Mm,
ministry that puts on
mhm.
this radio show is a healing ministry, an emotional healing ministry. And so there was no denying that the Lord distracted me. He interrupted our conversation
Yeah.
because it was from another place. And I've never forgotten that. So, do you by
Mhm.
chance have any personal experiences like that, Peg?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm so glad you shared that one because we need to hear that inside small voice of God. And so many times we let those internal distractions be that negative voice that tries to tell us we're unworthy or we should be ashamed. And if we can listen to the still voice of God, that's not what he wants us to hear. Yes, I think both internal distractions can be that negative, but God can be that internal voice that steadies us and brings us back to the truth. One thing that I identify with this is someone told me once I was a hummingbird. And they were using this in prophecy and saying, Peg, you just flit and flit and flit around. Well, if you think of distracted animals, I can't think of a more distracted animal than a hummingbird. And I took this as really negative. So I just was, I thought, is that what I look like to you, Lord? Do I flit around and not accomplish anything? And the Lord had me. My mother loved hummingbirds. So hummingbirds are really special to me. But as I was watching the hummingbirds outside my window this summer, the Lord started teaching me about hummingbirds. And as they flip from flower to flower, they're actually being very productive. They have a reason, and as we might have different contacts that might be small, they can be valuable contacts as we go from each of these projects to each of these projects, because a hummingbird is actually helping to pollinate the flowers and helping them grow. But then the Lord showed me something else. I have a hummingbird feeder outside my door, and he said, watch the hummingbirds when they stop. And the hummingbirds actually land at the feeder and stop, and they poise. They have this little profile that is so cute as they drink in the water. And he said, what I want you to do is take time to drink my living water, to pause every day, not just in the morning with your devotions, but to take a breath throughout the day, to pause, to take in my blessings, to give me gratitude. And when you pause, you are like that hummingbird, taking in nourishing, because I will restore your soul. And it reminded me of the woman at the well. We all go to the well, and Jesus is there to meet her at the well, to meet her in her need and give her that drink of living water. So rather than seeing a hummingbird flitting from place to place as a negative now, Lisa, I see those pauses. I see purpose in the flitting, but I also see the pauses with a time when God can restore me, rejuvenate me, and fill me with his living water.
I love that. I think that is so cool. I've never realized how a hummingbird has a pose like that. So I learned that today. That's very cool. Thank you. I love that. Now, I know that we can still allow distractions to crowd out the voice of God, especially during our morning quiet time. So, what are some of the ways that you have found to keep the bad distractions out?
That's really a great question, because I deal with that every morning, Dr. Michelle. Um, I struggle sometimes with my quiet time. And part of it is that digital device, that phone. I do my devotions on my phone. So then, if my notifications are on, they're going to interrupt me. One thing I do is I put a do not disturb on my phone until 7 o'clock. So any quiet time I have on my phone, there will be no notification that comes up. I like to set a timer for quiet time, because when I set a timer, if you think about your morning, you're trying to put all these different things, whether you're exercise, whether you're making lunches, whether you're getting kids up, with, whatever your morning looks like. If I put a timer on my phone, and when I had kids at home, I notified them, if I'm sitting in this chair, mom can't be interrupted. Now I don't have kids that interrupt me, but a husband that interrupted me. So he knows if I'm sitting in that chair with the timer, I ask people to leave that time alone. Also, So I'll set the timer for my quiet time. Second of all, it doesn't mean that things aren't going to come into your head. You're going to come in your head. Oh, make that dentist appointment. Oh, pick up this thing at the grocery store. Oh, what are we going to making for dinner? So I keep either a sideline in my journal or I keep a piece of paper where I jot down the distraction so I remember what's going on. I do this at night if I wake up too and there's distractions on my mind, but I write it down so I don't forget it. And then I return right back to whether I love to do my quiet time with praise and thanksgiving, with a time of forgiveness, with a time of intercession for others. So being able to do that. And then the other thing is being able to settle our mind. Our world is big on the non-Christian world, or the secular world talks about mindfulness. And mindfulness is actually a God designed way. If you think of Philippians 4:8, where it says, fix your mind on things that are pure, praiseworthy, lovely, admirable, noble, true, trustworthy, excellent, and right. That's a mindfulness thing that Paul is talking about, being able to focus on what is good. So one of the things that we can do in our quiet time is begin with those deep breaths and say scriptures that mean something to you. I love taste and see that the Lord is good, or create in me a clean heart, O Lord, or trust in the Lord with all my heart, lean not on my own understanding, or singing a worship song, open my eyes, Lord, and help me see Jesus, or an old one, in the secret, in the quiet place, and the chorus is, I want to know you. I want to hear your voice. I want to know you more. So by singing and by praising God and by saying a favorite Bible verse, I'm able to block out those distractions, because worry and worship can occupy the same part in our brain.
That is so true. And I do what you do. I have a piece of paper next to my Bible and my computer because my brain wakes up and I'm constantly thinking about what I have to do. And I'm old enough that I forget if I don't write it down. So I write it down right next to me. I wish I didn't get distracted at all, but I literally pray, Peg, that I will not be distracted because it's gotten so bad. And because I listen to YouTube videos, I worship to YouTube like videos, praise songs and things like that. I have to have my notifications on because I got to be able to hear it. And so those things, ding, you'll come in, right? And there's nothing I can do about that. So I just asked the Lord to help me to focus on Him because I want to give Him my entire focus, right? So I want to talk to you a little bit about your book, Devotions for the Distracted Heart, 40 Devotions to Find God's Purpose Amid the Distractions of Life. Now, we've talked a lot about distractions on this show already, but why did you decide on this topic? And what do you want readers to gain from your book?
Well, I told you I'm a distracted person. And as I started to just write devotions, the Lord had put this phrase in my life, in my heart, a long time ago: devotions for the distracted heart, saying, Peg, you are distracted, but I want to teach you things through those distractions. And I went through with the delays and the discipline. And he started having me write these devotions just in a blog. It started in a blog. And as I said before, they all start with D: distraction of dogs, distraction of disabilities, distraction of disruptions. All of them are D's. And so it's my prayer that as readers take this and look at a distraction that I've learned in my life, that they'll see God's hand in their distractions and not only grow closer to them, but lessen the stress that we're all vulnerable to do with distractions.
Yes, Peg, we'd love for you to share your favorite devotion from the book. Could you read it to us and the audience, please?
So there's quite a few devotions, and they are on YouVersion as well as in my book. And I also continue to write more devotions, and they're on my blog, on my website as well. So people can go into them. This one is a more recent one. It's called The Devotions of Duct Tape. Remember, I said everything is a D. So it starts off with, He heals the brokenhearted, binds up their wounds in Psalms. Oh, darn, I explained as I've tried to force a bottle of salad dressing into the bin on the refrigerator door. The bin cracked and broke, causing all the condiment bottles to spill onto the floor, and I was upset. However, my resourceful husband took the broken bin to the basement, he soon returned with a makeshift repair using duct tape. He wedged the duct tape fixed bin back into the refrigerator door, and it was functional again, holding all the surviving condiment bottles I had. Duct tape. What a miracle material. It's incredible how many things in our lives are repaired and made functional with it. I've even heard that it's been used on airplanes, although I'd rather not know where. The downside of duct tape is that once an item has been repaired with it, we often assume it has the same strength and durability as the original. Wouldn't it be great if our lives could be repaired as quickly as fixing a broken item with duct tape? Unfortunately, the losses and challenges we face in life require more than tape to find purpose and healing. What might be broken in your life? Jesus offers more strength and support than duct tape ever could. He can hold you together through your struggles. He is faithful, especially during the storms of life. And unlike duct tape, he never wears out. Dear Lord, we don't like when we feel broken. We seek your guidance and comfort. May we always think of being embraced in your loving arms. Find strength in your presence through joys and trials. Help us to trust in your wisdom and share that love with others. Amen.
Thank you, Peg. I love that. I love duct tape actually too. It's such a great invention. So thank you, Peg, so much for this enlightening interview about the good and bad of distractions. To learn more about Peg Arnold and her work, visit her website at pegarnold.org. Her book again is Devotions for the Distracted Heart, 40 Devotions to Find God's Purpose Amid the Distractions of Life. You can find it on Amazon.com.
It's been great talking to you, Peg. I just love this topic. And it's such a good one for nowadays, I think, as we get more distracted, like we said, we're more distracted than a goldfish. And so we really need help. So it was great to talk to you again. And we hope that you will reach out to us here at Pearls of Promise Ministries. You can email us at info@pearlsofpromiseministries.com. You can find us on social media at Facebook and Instagram. Our Instagram address is at @pop_ministries. We're on X at Pop Talk Media and at Pearls of Promise. And all of our past Pop Talk programs and award-winning documentaries are on our YouTube channel at Pearls of Promise Ministries. Our latest documentary, To Fight Holocaust Denial, Their Blood Cries Out, has now won 12 International Film Festival awards. So that is Pop Talk for today. We're just ordinary girls
who God turned into pearls. Have a wonderful week.